San Francisco, and to include the important piece, which is the LGBTQ Latino history also in that project. So thank you for your work. I just want to briefly introduce our panelists. They're going to talk a little bit about their background. We have Estela Garcia, Executive Director of Instituto Familiar de la Raza. We have Steven Ibarra, Independent Contractor and Community Advocate, a gentleman in the hat. And then we have Eduardo Morales, Executive Director of Águilas. We also have another panelist who's probably on their way. That's Andy Rivera, the Executive Director of Galeria de la Raza. So why don't we start with Eduardo, Dr. Morales. Tell us a little about your background and your work, who you are.
Hi. Welcome, everybody. I'm glad we're doing this. This is a very short program, so we're going to speak very fast or try to bring some highlights. But I think it should be a continuing thing that we should be doing because it's just a lot of information. I'm Executive Director of Águilas, and I think the banner up here is one of our first banners that we had done with Águilas, which is basically a grassroots organization. That's how it started, to try to develop a political social awareness in the community, one of many groups that have done this. Then suddenly there was an organization called Judas that kind of didn't work out, and so I and 4 other psychologists, Latino psychologists, pulled together and developed the El Ambiente program of Águilas. So I'm a distinguished professor at the California School of Professional Psychology at Allied International University, and I've written actually a lot of published articles around Latinos LGBT. Most recent was in the Division 44 of the American Psychological Association Journal on Immigration and Latino LGBT. And actually I did a lot of notes, so the Historical Society will get some of my notes in preparation for today, but I think they wanted to be focused on 2 questions, right? So,
yes.
Yes. So one of the questions was, how was Águilas formed? And that's kind of how we were formed. We're in this building and we do HIV prevention. But we want to move on to the other presenters, or do you want to continue?
Well, we're going to do, yes. Stella, tell us about who you are and your work.
So, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. My name is Estela Garcia. And when people ask me who I am, I always begin by saying that I am Chicana, I am two-spirited, and I belong to a huge Mexican family. And that family has had major influence in my life, which I will speak to today, along with some of the other influences in my work. You know, I am executive director. It's a very important role that I carry in the community, and I'm very happy to participate today to contribute to the history. I'm only one of many people who are really have been involved in the efforts to really promote LGBTQ health, LGBTQ rights, along with the Latino community at large. So it's an honor to be here, and of course very honored to be with my colleagues here. So thank you.
Thank you, Stella. And then we have Steve Ibarra.
Welcome. Good, you can hear me. So I'm born and raised in San Francisco. I have 8 brothers and 2 sisters. Born and raised on the mission. So I'm very proud to be here, and very proud that all of you could make it, and our panelists also. Very proud that you could be here. This is important to me, and it is kind of from the heart because I'm a native, and they say we're pretty rare, but we're not, because I know thousands of others. But I'm also HIV positive, and when I turned HIV positive, I went back to school and finished my AA and my BA and my MA, and it was important for me to grow and to build community and to share me with the world and to share HIV with the world and to be authentic and to be here. So I'm here to share the love. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Just before we move any further, does anyone need translation, or do you have translation services?
I do.
And for our panelists, speak clearly and precise, and to get that translated accurately. So thank you guys again for being here. Why don't we go ahead and start some of the questions. I thought maybe we'd start with Stella Garcia. Most of us know you as Executive Director of Instituto Familia de la Raza. The question we would like to ask you today centers around your personal experience as a lesbian, a Latina, a mom, a grandmother, and a healer. How has your personal experiences influenced your leadership at Instituto Familia de la Raza?
You know, I read that question, and I first of all want to thank the group of you who thought about the question, because I think it's very important to talk about influence and to talk about the way in which any one of us individually and as part of a community develop and grow, and where that comes from. We all have our individual attributes and our personalities and our, you know, buenas mañas and malas mañas, como dicen. But we are also influenced by everything around us. I began always with the idea that was a major influence in my life was my grandfather. And the reason that he was so influential in my life was because at an early age, there were stories about my grandfather's involvement in social justice movement in Mexico, in the labor movement. And the fact that he came to the United States at a very early age, he was probably about 20 or 19. He came to the United States and he continued to be involved in the labor movement. And he began to relate to a lot of his comadres and compadres and ask the question, how can we make things better in the United States for the Mexican population? Because there was no housing. Sound familiar? There was a lot of discrimination around housing. People could not even be buried in their town because there was laws that prohibited Mexicanos from being buried in the same grave areas where the Anglos were buried. So those kind of discrimination and racism and things were occurring, and his action was to create community. And this is important. He essentially started talking to other people and saying, what do you think about this, and what should we do about this? And he began the first chapter, one of the first chapters called Sociedad Mutualista, which is, if anybody knows about that, that was kind of the very first, in the 1920s, became one of the first kind of social action groups that were formed, and they actually developed over the Southwest. For many years there was people that were participants in that. But in any case, my grandfather had a legacy, and that legacy was told to me as a young girl and to my brothers and sisters, and that was a major influence in my life. It's what led me to another major influence, which was Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez in the United Farm Workers Movement. As a young person, I participated in and learned about community organizing, and was very influenced by their the whole issue around human rights and social justice, and really being involved in, you know, very basic grassroots, going back to what the Doctor dijo was grassroots efforts, and learning at an early age that we do have power within our communities. That once we form and decide and come together, there's a lot of things that we can change. So that was an early influence for me. A major influence has also been my mother. She recently passed away, and I always think of her in a very beautiful way, because she instilled in me what I believe are long-lasting, sustainable values, very important values that I believe in, which have to do with familia, loving your family, raising up your family, despite whatever hardships we face, to be a part of the solution with them, enjoying family life, and also dealing with the struggles of the family. So my mom was a very practical woman. She was not in, when we say la la la. She was a hardworking woman who ended up working as a farm worker in her 50s. And we were all raised in that environment. We were all workers in the field. But her influence on me was very, as I say, it's been very influential and sustainable in my life, because she taught me to work. She taught me strong ethics. She taught me to be engage with people in an honest way. And also to expect that people, and to have a lot of sense of the value of integrity. Those were my mom's lessons, as well as many others. And I was raised with dichos that I still use today. They come to my mind, they come to my spirit, and they help guide me. They're like my mother's consejos. And so this is, these are the kind of influence that she has. I also was influenced in my life as a young person with the civil rights movement, all the people of color movements, the African American, the Latino, the Native American. In my bio, I always recognize myself as two-spirited, and that's always been, in some respects, kind of received differently because contemporary ideas, LGBTQ, which I understand and I respect and I relate to. But in terms of my self-identity, I relate as a two-spirited person. And I have for many years, and that was because of the influence of Native people and what they taught me about that term and what it means to me personally and to my partner and to my family. And so my influence has been, by all those movements. And when I think about it, a common theme that I want to just address today is that there's been three messages that have come to me in these different ways through my family, through my friends, and through my movement, which is really around community empowerment, self-determination, and social justice. Those have been the three pillars, I want to say, of the work that has led me to my work. And the reason that my leadership has been formed has been around those three core principles. And it's what drew me to Instituto. It's what drew me to Instituto Familiar de la Raza, and it still holds me. I'm still there, and I've been there many, many years. And it's a organization that has always believed in those three core principles, as well as the major role that an institution should have in the cultural and spiritual health of people. So all of our services have been directed in that way, towards the health and towards the wellness of our community in many different forms. Instituto has never been a LGBTQ only organization. And we have been often criticized for that, and I get it. But I also get it that a community needs to be inclusionary and embrace all of its members. And that's one thing that I'm very proud of as a two-spirited person working in Instituto, that's been my experience for myself and for the programs and the Henry that we observe. I want to also speak about an influence. I have a very intimate, personal influence, which is my partner, Rovan. And Rovan has been my partner for 38 years. And we have been together since we were not quite teenagers, but a little bit past that. Around 21 years, we were around 21 years old when we got together. And our life together has always been really interesting. She's a bright woman. Anybody who knows Rovan knows why I love her. She's devoted, she's interesting, she's intelligent, and she's a wonderful family person. She loves familia. And we have raised 3 children together. We have 3 daughters, and we have 8 grandchildren. And so our life has been abundant, and we recognize that we feel fortunate. We feel that, as a couple, we have lived a good enough life, as they say. Not perfect, but a good life together. And we have shared many things, one of which has been really our traditions as a community. We come from, not just the Chicano movement. We are not just identified with the Chicano movement. We are identified with the indigenous movement, with the indigenous people's identity in this country, not only in this country, but in the Americas. And we have learned and been mentored by many people who have been traditional teachers, and they've helped us learn about all the medicines that exist in our community that many of us are not aware of and don't, connect to. But it's been healthy for us, it's been important to us. And so that influence, I want to acknowledge that my elders and my mentors have run the gamut of Chicanos, Latinos, Indigenous. It's all there. Like we were talking about that rainbow of who we are as a people. That has been my really privilege, and I've been blessed to be influenced by those factors. And I think all those things have influenced my leadership. And I want to also say that leadership without humility is not leadership. Leadership, you have to be able to be, as they say, both the follower and the leader. You have to be able to know when to step back and to hear the voices of our community and follow that voice. And sometimes you have to be the one that says, this is what I think is important to do, and let's do it together. And so leadership is not a one-way street, as they say. So I don't know how my time is.
Great. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We appreciate it. Thank you for your wisdom and all the work that you've done for the LGBT community and the Latino community at large. I know this has been instrumental in my life and my family's life also. So much fun. Thank you for that.
Thank you.